is unfortunately inactive. But Stort's got some stuff going on, including a speaking tour that he's doing. I'm looking forward to getting to know him and speak to him on Tuesday of next week. Also, looking
SiriusXM's Faction Talk on all things rock.
Got that right.
Classic rock, alternative rock, experimental, progressive, glam metal to heavy metal. All variants that infect your ears.
I don't care. Just make it rock.
And now, Trunk Nation with host Eddie Trunk.
Yes, indeed. Here we are on a Tuesday edition of Trunk Nation. It is 12th day of May, 2026. A good afternoon to you, regardless of whatever time zone you may be in. It is the afternoon, noon in the West, 3 o'clock Eastern, here on this very, very busy Tuesday, very busy off-the-air Tuesday. We'll get busy here on the air as well, but as I often say, the stuff that goes on around this show is always super busy in terms of me just dealing with guests and scheduling things and doing all these sort of behind the scenes things to make this show happen every day. But we get it going and we get it on and we get some good stuff happening. And I just got a little guest update for you that I can share, which is exciting. We have like a run here of guests that would be like the classic rock wish list murderer's row here. First of all, today we have Jason Newsted. Of course, former member of Metallica. I don't think I need to tell my audience who Jason is. And he'll be joining us, returning to the program at the bottom of the hour. So we'll spend some time with Jason. Looking forward to that. He's going out on tour with his band, and he'll tell us all about that and see what else we get into when he joins us at 3:30 Eastern Time live today. Also, I can tell you, just confirmed minutes ago, Thursday, Neil Schon of Journey returning to the show. Journey just announced about 40 new live shows today in the U.S., and I think they get to Canada too. I didn't look through all of them. Also, this is exciting. A first-time guest, a member of a incredibly legendary trio, one of the biggest of all time, as a matter of fact. From The Police, drummer Stewart Copeland joins us next Tuesday, the 19th. I have never had the pleasure of interviewing Stewart Copeland, a phenomenal drummer, an enormously huge band, which is unfortunately inactive. But Stewart's got some stuff going on, including a speaking tour that he's doing. I'm looking forward to getting to know him and speak to him on Tuesday of next week. Also, looking likely Thursday of next week from the Vegas studio, Alice Cooper sitting in with us. And just confirmed minutes ago from the Vegas studio, first week of June, it's looking like the 4th in studio, Bryan Adams, who is going to be in Vegas doing a run of shows and is going to take some time to sit with us in studio. We've had Bryan on a couple times on the phone. But as far as the radio show, this will be the first time I get face-to-face with him in person. Greatly looking forward to that. Of course, we'll include your phone calls in that. So, man, we got some great stuff as usual coming up. Please keep an eye on social media because anything can change. And I tell you guys all the time, you never know what's going to shift or move around or what's going to get added or taken away or who's going to postpone or reschedule. Neil Schon was supposed to be on with us about a week ago. He wanted to hold off because he wanted to wait until the new Journey dates were announced. They were announced today, so we'll dive right in on that. As you know, Journey, on what they are saying is a farewell tour. They took a little break from their tour. I saw them in Vegas about a week and a half ago outside at a pool show, out at a big pool stage. They are back into the arenas in the U.S. The tour resumes in Tampa on Friday. We'll have Neil on Thursday. And today, another run of about 40 additional shows announced for Journey. starting in Los Angeles on September 12th and wrapping up appropriately in San Francisco, where, of course, the band's history is and base is, November 28th. So what's interesting is if this holds and they don't add additional dates, the final ever Journey show, if they hold to the farewell, and we know how that goes, will be on November 28th in San Francisco. It is significant that this run of dates ends in San Francisco, obviously, because, again, that's where the band's history is. And I would think that show will sell out rather quickly, and who knows, maybe they will add an additional one there in their home area. So we'll get into more of this with Neil on Thursday, but a big, what appears to be final run right up until the end of the year for Journey on what they are saying is the end. So that is some big news today. And again, we will cover it when Neil joins us this Thursday on the program. What else do I have for you? A bunch of other stuff to get into today. A festival called the Ohana Fest, which takes place in Dana Point, California, is in its 10th year. It is not an all-rock event, but there is a good, decent rock representation. And that includes Pearl Jam, along with a solo set from Eddie Vedder, Billy Idol, who seems to be popping up everywhere these days, and Bad Religion among the rock artists performing on this festival. Again, September 25, 26, 27, the dates on this one. Also, Black Veil Brides announcing another run of dates. These are headline shows. They run August 27th through September 27th. Also, Roger Daltrey, and you can file this one under the No Band Ever Ends category, has announced solo shows. I say that because he has said he's retiring, but here we go with solo dates announced today. Of course, The Who said they were retiring back in 82, and they just toured recently. But anyway, Daltrey solo, August 23 through September 29. And again, as usual, I give you the range of dates that they're playing. And since this is a national broadcast, just check your listings, go to these bands or artists' websites or social media, and see if there is a date in your area. Also announced today, our old friend Nico McBrain. And by the way, that is how it's pronounced. I hear so many people refer to him as Nico. Nico from Iron Maiden, Nico McBrain. It is not. It is Nico. Just look how it's spelled. N-I-C-K, Nick, with an O at the end of it. Just like Neil Peart is Neil Peart, not Neil Peart. I asked the man himself how to say his last name when I interviewed him. Anyway, Nico has announced a book, an autobiography, coming out on October 22nd called Hello, Boys and Girls. I would think that Nick's book is going to be extremely entertaining. Nico is extremely entertaining. He's a great guy. He's a great personality. I've always said he is a larger-than-life personality and was the biggest personality in Iron Maiden in terms of, the other guys are much more reserved, not as, big sort of presence, if you will. Nico was a guy that walks into a room and with that big laugh and super engaging. Again, the other guys in Maiden are super cool. They're just very, very kind of reserved, quiet, laid back guys. So Nico always took that role in Maiden as being the big personality. That's one of the reasons why they always put him out there for a lot of press as well. So his book, if he captures that personality, should be great. Again, October 22nd for Nico, who is now, of course, the former drummer of Iron Maiden, having spent better than 40 years behind the kit for that band. I'm sure we'll have Nick on when it gets closer to the release for this book. Again, same deal with records as books with me. I get hit up all the time about having artists on for projects that don't come out for another 6 months or 5 months or 4 months. I'm not saying I was for Nico yet. I'm just talking in general. I was hit up by somebody else who wrote a book that's coming out like at the end of the year. Like, you want to do an interview now? I haven't read a word of it. It's not even out for 4 months. Why? You see that with a lot of artists, with records. I talk about it all the time. It's head scratching to me. So I prefer to wait to do interviews and have guests on the show when it's much closer to the release of the actual product they're promoting. This way, when they talk about it, you guys, it's more fresh in your mind. And if you like it and want to buy it, you can engage in it. I will never understand why they do these interviews 4 or 5 months before a record or project is available. But hey, to each their own. That's how I feel about it. So anyway, look forward to talking to Nick, and I'm sure we will have him back on when, again, it gets closer to the end of October when the book is actually available. Of course, last night, as we talked about earlier, the season finale of American Idol took place. We don't generally talk about that show all that much because it's usually not all that rock-oriented. However, last night there was a fair amount of rock representation in the 3-hour season finale. Most of interest to my audience would be the inclusion of Motley Crue, who, as I predicted, did Home Sweet Home, a portion of it with Carrie Underwood, who, judging from the, and again, I don't watch that show. I have nothing against it. It's just never been something that's really interested me. And there's really not a lot of rock in there. And when there has been rock over the years, people alert me to it. I'll watch it. And obviously some great talents have come out of that. No question. I mean, Chris Daughtry and these others who have gone on to have great rock careers. But, a lot was made because Motley was performing. And as I mentioned, these acts will do that because it is all great promotion for them and what they have coming up. In the case of Motley, it's a tour, obviously, this summer. Same with Blues Traveler and Gin Blossoms, who were on the show. Now, I did not see that segment of the show, but as I mentioned, the Motley segment was all over the internet instantly, and I did watch that. Carrie Underwood came out and duetted with Vince on the beginning of Home Sweet Home. Tommy Lee was at a piano playing. I don't know if the piano was actually live or not. And I say that because there's a very, very funny clip of Motley Crue on tour a number of years ago where Tommy Lee comes up to a big piano and starts playing the piano part, but it starts playing before he sits down at the piano. Clearly showing that the piano part was pre-recorded. Now, before you go crazy about that, as I've said all the time, those things, believe it or not, actually do not bother me. I've said it's so misconstrued how I feel about the tracks thing. Vocals, full songs, instruments, big instruments, yes. But, if you got a keyboard part and you don't want to tune a piano and have a actual real piano on the road for 15 seconds of one song, I understand that. You want to put a track on roll something on tape that's just a keyboard intro to a song like, Dio with the beginning of Holy Diver. I have no problem with that. It's never what I'm talking about. But it's always in my mind whenever I see Tommy. I'm like, I wonder if that's actually on or that's just, for the visual when he plays that part. But anyway, they did that. And then they went into Kickstart My Heart with Carrie Underwood also still out there. It appears that even though Carrie Underwood is very much a country artist in terms of what she does in her own career, it would seem that they have made her kind of like the token rock fan of the judges when there's a rock moment, because there are endless shots of her singing and dancing and all of that. She seems to be the most animated and into it when it comes to a rock performance. Also, Shinedown performed with one of the contestants, and again with Carrie Underwood jumping around and singing behind the performance. So she is definitely that role in that show, it would seem. And I know that she's allegedly a big rock fan and has talked about it, so that's great. So anyway, there you go. We can talk about that when we have time to take calls. If you watched it last night and you have any comments about that, but no matter where you land on all this stuff, nice to have some rock representation on a huge national TV show and some rock performances on a huge show last night with those acts performing. The 80s new wave band The Fix, who are really good, by the way. I saw them at the event that I co-host in Cancun, The Sands. They were really good last time I saw them. They've announced a run of dates. Cy Kernan's still the singer in the band as an original member. July 11th through August 8th for the run of shows for The Fix, Red Skies at Night, and all that stuff. Great songs. This had previously been announced, but, sometimes things leak out early and then they get re-announced. So this has been kind of re-announced today that there is an event taking place in Las Vegas called the Legends of Rock with Gene Simmons' name as the title host. This is, as we've talked about before, basically a paid signing show. There are many of these around the country where you go there and these artists gather and you pay their requested fee, if you'd like, to get a photo or autograph with them. The difference with this one is many of these that happen around the country, whether it's Chiller, Monsterpalooza, etc., have some rock music and rock artists, but are mainly focused on movie actors, horror movie actors, TV actors. This one is exclusively rock artists. In addition to Gene himself, Geezer Butler also scheduled to perform. So you're now seeing some of these Sabbath guys do paid signings. Also, Stuart Copeland, who I just mentioned, is going to be on the show next week. Dave Davies of the Kinks, Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer of Kiss. So basically, this thing is going to have everybody from Kiss at it, with the exception of course, at this point, Paul Stanley. It happens at the Westgate in Vegas, September 25 through 27. This should not be confused with the Kiss Landlocked deal, which is a month or so after that. This is a completely separate event. As far as live performances and music goes, the only live performance so far announced is Gene Simmons himself with his solo band. And what I've been told is how it's going to work is whatever the admission is, you pay to get in. From that admission, you can walk around, you can mingle, you can see some panels, some Q&A panels, and you can also see the live performances as they're announced. However, again, if you're going to want autographs or pictures from the people that are announced, that will be an additional fee per person based on what they're asking for. And which is, that's standard with all these shows. I've talked about them before. They are huge business and they happen all the time on various levels, whether it's actors, whether it's musicians. It is a big, big business, paid signing shows. So again, this was more officially announced today. It had already been out there, but they put out an official release today. Same with Anthrax, official release about the new single, which is coming on Friday. The new album was also released. We talked about that last week because that was already kind of out there as well. So I wanted to throw that out again. We're figuring out now what we're going to do with Anthrax. We're trying to do something a little different than just having them on because, again, I've got huge history with those guys. So maybe we can do something cool with them in LA or something related to, I still would like to do an event for the 10th anniversary of this show, which is this year. Maybe we tie them in with that. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but waiting to see what comes back on that. Also, I had speculated with the announcement last week of the new Stones album, Foreign Tongues. And of course, the Stones did an event in Brooklyn to announce this record. I believe Conan O'Brien hosted that. That was last week. I had said, I've not seen any footage from any kind of press conference or anything like that, but I had said that I would have hoped somebody at that event would have asked about a tour, because that's the real question when you have a band at this age. Are they going to play live again? Well, I don't know if it was asked at that event, but the Associated Press did ask Keith Richards about touring or playing live shows in support of this new album, and Keith pretty much ruled it out for this year. saying that if they do play live, they would have an eye towards next year, possibly, but they're not sure. So, here we are on May 12th. We're coming up, the year is almost half over already, which is hard to believe. So if there are live Stone shows, Keith is saying maybe next year, seeing how they feel. But of course, the Stones being the Stones, if they wanted to, they could put in a stadium show on sale for a show on Saturday and it would sell out. So not saying they're going to do that. Logistically, it would be difficult, but they can do that. And they have been known for doing club shows and surprise underplay shows. They actually did that when the last record came out in New York City. So something like that could entirely pop up. We don't know, but we do know that the album is coming. And Keith said they're just basically focused on promoting the album right now. No talk of shows. Also announced minutes ago, we've covered extensively the Alice Cooper, Criss Angel Magic Meets Rock mashup that's been going on sporadic dates in Vegas the last few months. Got a lot of calls of people who went to the first two run of dates. All very, very positive response. We've had Chris on twice for it. We've had Alice on for it as well. We will have Alice on again, likely on the 21st. On the 21st of this month is the first of 3 more shows at Chris's Theater in Vegas at Planet Hollywood for Chris and Alice. And just minutes ago, another run of dates has been announced for November and December. The new dates are November 27 and 28 and December 4 and 5. So in addition to the 3 shows kicking off next week, and I'm going to go to that first one on that Thursday and see it for the first time, those 3 shows and now 4 additional shows, same place, Chris's Theater in Planet Hollywood, November 27, 28, December 4 and 5 for Chris and Alice Cooper. Nice to see that continuing and doing well. And as you can see, they're just going to pick off a couple weekends when they can based on their respective schedules, because in that theater is where Chris does his nightly magic show, Mind Freak. So they need to be able to free up time from that to shift over to doing a rock show. Also, Robert Plant, who we've talked about here and there, Robert Plant has been on tour. I've talked about him having what seems to be kind of a conflicted relationship with Led Zeppelin. That's gone on for years, by the way. And he's done a couple Zeppelin songs in his most recent tour. Surprised people in Argentina last night when he busted into the Zeppelin classic Rock and Roll. And if you see video of it online, Robert Plant still sounds in pretty good voice. He is 77 years old. Usually when Plant does Zeppelin material, it tends to be more subdued stuff, like Going to California or something like that. He also tends to do it in very different arrangements. But in this instance, he went for it. I mean, he's not, going to be up there as the Golden God again, throwing shapes, as the Brits would say. But did a more than respectable job singing that song, which, again, every time he does something like that, it gets people fired up to be like, one more time, Zeppelin. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but it was nice to see Robert Plant go back to embracing that a little bit. And again, you can see that online if you'd like. Happy birthday today to Steve Winwood, who, believe it or not, is only 73 years old. I say only because he started in the 60s, I think maybe even in the late 50s with his music career with the Spencer Davis Group. But if you know anything about Winwood, he was like 14 or 15 when he started in that band. So he is still, you would think of a guy like Steve Winwood who's been doing this for so long that he's got to at least be in his 80s. But no, he is only 73 years old today. It's amazing.
I have him at 78.
Is that right? Because I saw, well, you never can trust the internet, but I saw on the internet.
Yeah, I have his birthday as 1948. Again,
Okay.
the internet will fool us all, but that's just what I'm seeing here.
Well, that sounds like it makes more sense. That sounds like it makes more sense. Whatever he is, he's still relatively young for when he started, for God's sakes. It's crazy.
Yeah, I see other posts saying 1948 is the day, so that would be
so
78.
He's 78. That's a little bit more in line with what you would expect. So happy birthday, regardless, to Steve Winwood. Also, happy birthday today to Kiss drummer Eric Singer, celebrating a birthday today. Also, happy birthday today to Billy Duffy, guitarist from The Cult, celebrating a birthday today. Billy would be 64, it looks like, from my quick math, having been born in 1961, 3 years earlier than me. So,
65.
Did I miss anyone? 65?
65.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And yes, you did miss one. Billy Squire turned 76 today.
Oh, that is a huge one, because I am a huge Billy Squire fan, as everybody knows. How old is he?
76.
Happy birthday, Billy Squire, a guy that so many would love to see play again, myself included, but does not seem to be in the offing. Although he did make a public appearance, Jim in Staten Island called in. He had gone to it, where he did do a signing for his last rock album, Tell the Truth, being reissued on vinyl for Record Store Day. And Jim went and talked to him and said it was a very good, positive experience. So really interesting. You know, Billy is clearly not somebody that really wants to be back out there again in a big way, but he will pop his head up every once in a while and do things you wouldn't expect. And that signing was one of them. So happy birthday to Billy Squire. A lot of big birthdays today on this 12th day of May. Anything else, Joel, that you want to jump in on?
No, you actually had everything I had in your long list of news.
And I just wanted to mention this too, real quickly. And we can talk more about this after Jason Newsted's coming up here any minute. But for those that heard it this morning or at whatever time on the replay, Weird Al was on Howard Stern this morning. And we've had dialogue, and I've had dialogue with you guys, this audience, for over 10 years here and there with Weird Al. And as I've told you guys, where I land on parody stuff, I'm just not a fan of parody. I love comedy. I'm just not a parody music fan. I just never was. I don't care who the band is or who the artist is, you know, whether it's Weird Al, Steel Panther, whatever. It's nothing personal. It's just not my thing. I just, you know, it gets very stale very quickly to me after a couple moments. That's just how I feel about parody rock in general. Spinal Tap. Love the movie, but again, I'm not cranking Big Bottom. I heard it one time, funny, haha, get it, I move on. But that's just me. Other people crank it, love it, go to see it live, whatever. All good. But, you know, Weird Al is pretty much the king of it. And I didn't catch all of the interview, but I did hear Howard making the case for Weird Al to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And, you know, it got me thinking about that. And I don't know how I feel about that. And I wonder how you guys feel about it. I mean, if you're going to put a parody artist in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and look, by every measure, Weird Al is a great musician and his band are great musicians. But again, it's goofy parody music. You know, taking something somebody else wrote, changing lyrics and arrangements and doing these whacked out versions. So he's had a huge career doing it. He's playing amphitheaters doing it still. He was a staple on MTV. So it's an interesting argument. I don't know how I feel about it, but look, here's how I feel about it. When you don't have Styx or Boston or Meatloaf or Jethro Tull in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then there's not even a conversation to be had about Weird Al. No way. But if you had some of these other acts that have been snubbed forever in there that are super deserving, then maybe we can have a conversation about that. But I don't know. We can maybe get into it with you guys a little bit later on or later in the week, time permitting. But I thought that was an interesting topic. And, you know, Weird Al felt like, you know, he wasn't really sure. And he just basically said, you know, I don't like the fact that my music is marginalized because I do it as a goof, because there is talent behind it. So, you know, interesting argument. We'll see. All right, we got to get to Jason Newsted, so let's get a quick break. When we come back, we should have the former Metallica bassist with us. talking about his latest project.
To change the U.S. national anthem to Def Leppard's Rock of Ages.
God knows I'm a rock fan. I'm proud to be a rock fan. We need a lot more of them flying the freaking flag.
This is Trunk Nation with A. Trunk,
a regular guy who loves music.
Sirius XM Faction Talk.
All right, we are back, and we are live on this Tuesday talking rock music with you as we do each and every weekday here on Trunk Nation Faction Talk, Sirius XM Channel 103, anytime live or on demand on the Sirius XM app. And it is great to have returning to the program this guy, Mr. Jason Newsted. Jason, how are you, man?
Hey, Eddie, what's happening, buddy? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. I was thinking about this. You are a guy that kind of, since you've been out of Metallica, you pop up in some stuff. You know, whether it's Voivod or whether you're doing the Newsted thing when you were doing the metal band, and then you'll go underground for a while, and then you sort of pop up again. So what has you popping up this time back into the music world, Jason?
Oh, my goodness. That was quite an intro. Let's see. Well, you know, I'm always doing my thing, whether anybody's watching or not. So I still kind of dance the same. A few different things, Eddie, have kind of melded together here, some planets aligning. Got to be friends with Blackberry Smoke in the last couple of years, and really I've warmed up to them. Appreciate them very much. And just had a chat with Charlie back in November. I went in Ithaca. I went and played Children of the Grave with them, and we kind of had a vibe. And they were going to go out for their 25th anniversary tour this year. And I asked him if Chop House Band could open a few shows because they give a lot of people opportunity, a lot of bands opportunity. And he said, yeah. And so here we are in July, going to go out for some really cool venues supporting Blackberry.
Yeah, Charlie's a friend, and I've had him on the show, and they're just a fantastic band, and I love the way they go about their business, and I love what they do and what they stand for. I got to hit him up, actually, because I know they're on I think it's a 25th anniversary tour or something like that they've been going already. So been a little while since we had him on. But that's a great pairing to have you out there. And of course, in addition to the Blackberry Smoke shows, you're also going to do some headline shows, right? With Chop House?
That's right. We're doing 8 headliners, and it's kind of exciting. You know, the band, we started Chop House Studio back in 1992. And so it was always a thing. And you and I have talked about it a little bit, some of the projects through time with some of our, you know, metal favorites and that, and then a lot of other people from the Bay Area and otherwise that just happened by and made up some soup with us. You know, all genres welcome at all times. And it was created in the beginning to be kind of a sanctuary from regular tour agenda. And so we've kept that element. The fun element is still the main element. And it's kind of been a rotating roster through the years. And now I've handpicked some cats that I've spent a lot of years playing with and recording with. So we got Jesse Farnsworth and Humberto Perez are playing guitar, and they're both from the Newsted Band, the most recent incarnation of the Newsted Band. And the last time I talked to you was when we did the show in Fort Lauderdale with the Newsted Band, where we brought it back. And so those two guys have been playing guitar together since then. So Jesse's got 17 years with me. Humberto's got 6. Drummer's Rob Tucker, and he's got 16 years in the Chop House. And our latest and greatest addition is Jimbo Hart from the 400 unit out of Muscle Shoals. And that's really elevated the band into a whole new place, having a bass player like that, man. So it's pretty good times, Eddie, pretty good times. We're going to go up and down the East a little bit, starting in Northampton in July, and then do some New York and Pennsylvania and Carolina, come back into hometown or stomping grounds in Michigan, and then end up at the Ryman on the 24th and 25th of July.
Yeah, I saw that. Those are with Blackberry, right? Two nights at the Ryman to wrap this up. Those are going to be crazy in a historic venue like that. That's got to be really cool. Have you ever played there before?
No, sir. And between me and you, we've known each other for long enough. There's many feathers in my cap from the bands I've had the privilege of playing in, and we've gone to the corners of the earth to be ambassadors for heavy metal music. And now this one is a feather of my own. You know, none of the bands I've been in have played at the Ryman, and I'm able to go there by myself and do my thing with the Chop House Band, my own baby for a 30-year-old baby. and make it happen. So it is a really kind of frosting on the top for this tour for sure. Very, very special moment.
Jason, you said something, and this might surprise people that have not followed the Chop House Band or don't know the Chop House Band all that well, that are listening right now or watching, because we're doing this on Zoom. But you mentioned your bass player in the band, and I'm sure there's some people listening right now like, wait a minute, Jason Newsted's a bass player. Like, what's going on here? But in the Chop House Band, you sing and play guitar. Talk about the decision to not play bass in this band.
I play all instruments. I play bass and mandolin, 12-string guitars, and all the things in the Chop House, and kind of lead the band, lead vocal. Always had a different bass player in the Chop House Band. Had some good ones over time. It is kind of when I first asked someone to play bass, it's a bit of a thing, and I find it really fun. But the last couple cats that we've had, Tom Kofter before this, and now Jimbo, are both just such excellent players and play circles around me. You know, I could do my thing with my downpicking, my Ramones style and Metallica style, whatever. But these guys are really got it together. So there's actually 3 bass players in the Chop House Band now, because Jesse Farnsworth and I swapped bass and guitar all through the recordings of the Newsted Band and the live tours of the Newsted Band. Jesse and I passed the bass back and forth. So we actually have 3 pretty decent bass players in our band.
Do you, growing up, was it always initially bass for you? Because, of course, you played bass in Flotsam and Jetsam, you then into Metallica. But did you play guitar that early on, or was guitar and playing guitar something that came later that you developed more?
On my 9th Christmas, I got a Sears Roebuck student model guitar, nylon string. And, I didn't learn how to tune it or put my left hand on it or anything, but I just kind of plucked the strings and I wrote little lyrics down and stuff and made little songs. So I've been doing that for a long freaking time. But about 12 years old, Eddie, probably you and me both, kid brings Dressed to Kill to school, right, on the vinyl. And I had one look at that cover, man, and the whole thing, and my world just changed, and it's never been the same since. And I said, can I borrow that record? And he says, as long as you bring it back tomorrow. And I went and played the shit out of it that night. And it changed my whole goddamn deal. So Gene Simmons was that first kind of influence in that way. So it was one of the guitars that has three keys on each side, right? So I pulled the middle keys out. So it just had four. Oh, they're one of my lights. And so there's 2 strings going down the outside of the neck and 2 going down the middle, because I wouldn't have known about changing the nut or doing any of that thing, right? So I had 4 strings on my guitar. So then I went and found the heaviest strings possible and wouldn't even know about gauges or any of that stuff, and just strung the thing. So it still sits in my room to this day with 4 keys on it, 1 big string sitting on it. So anyway, that was I wanted to be a bass player. The only one time I took a lesson, and it was on a bass when I was 14. That was when I was 14 when I got my first bass guitar. And so that was that, and always played bass since that time. And then once we started with the Chop House, we all started swapping instruments. When Jim Martin from Faith No More and some of those other cats would come in, they'd always bring banjos and weird, like steel guitars and stuff. And so we'd swap all those things, and I kind of warmed up to it that way. So I've been playing guitar for that long as well.
That's wild, though, man, because you started on guitar, then you're Dressed to Kill. You wanted to be Gene, so you literally take 2 pegs off the guitar. Right. Why did you're a couple years older than me, but we're right in that same zone. I got Destroyer, and that changed my life as well, and that kind of set me on my path of being a rock nerd. But I'm curious, if you're already playing guitar at that point, was it just the persona of Gene? Because then you could have easily just said, "Oh, I'm going to be Paul or Ace."
Of course, it was the showmanship, the larger than life, and the spitting fire and stuff, just like any other freaking red-blooded American farm kid,
What was the first? When did you see Kiss live for the first time?
Not until I was an adult, actually. Even though they played, because my family's from Michigan, right? And so they were in Pontiac, was the first big thing in Detroit Rock City and the whole vibe. And they were huge in my area, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo, Michigan. And was able to get all the swag, of course, and all the things, but never actually saw them live until I was already in Metallica. And I remember I did see them in Kalamazoo, Michigan for the first time I ever saw them in person. But I also, that was the day I met them. So it's kind of, kind of different.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, I was dear friends with Ace for about 40 years, and we lost him sadly last year. Yeah. And I'm sure, like so many others, it must have had a huge impact on you being a Kiss fan to lose one of the originals.
Whenever we mark the time with heroes passing, it's, you know where you were, you remember where you were, and that kind of vibe. And you think back about how special that was and how they made you feel a part of something and all that. So I definitely have those feelings towards that person for sure.
Yeah. Going back to the Chop House Band, Jason, describe to the audience who, they know you've done so many things musically. Of course, nothing looms larger than Metallica. We all know that, but this is not Metallica. This is different in terms of what you're doing musically. Give those that are not initiated with this band a little idea, if they come see you, direction-wise, what you're doing, and set-list-wise, what are you doing? Will you play stuff from other parts of your career and music you've done, or is it exclusively the music you've made with this band?
It's mostly newer originals, probably 85%, 90% originals. And then we do have a handful of covers. Most of deep cut listeners would recognize them, but you would, but not everybody. I think probably only Turn the Page and Rockin' in the Free World would be two that people would know as far as the, exposure over time or something, famous songs. Do some Tom Waits and that kind of thing. For as covers, it's always heroes. So whether it's younger heroes or older heroes, our covers are always our tip of the hat, our versions of their songs. So it's not like we do any kind of cover band thing where we play the songs exact or any. There's nothing like that. And as far as the ground that it covers, it has kind of a touch of everything I've always done. It has some acoustic bass things like Echo Brain would be. It has sideways, crazy, distorted shit like Voivod would be. It has full-on heavy slabs like Metallica, Flotsam would be. And then it has a bunch of things in between. There's the term coined in 1994 was Americana for music. We've always had Americana as the term in our lexicon, as far as Norman Rockwell or Henry Ford or whatever this kind of stuff is Americana. But for music, it was always classified whatever came out of America, right, or Americana. And so early on, it was more of a folk-leaning type of term. And as time has gone by, its umbrella has broadened. And in my simple explanation with a long answer, I think it's going to be Americana in the way that American heavy metal music is American. I was a prominent member of the biggest American heavy metal band. And so playing my Johnny Cash all the way over on this side, all the way through every other kind of style with all flavors of rock, Southern rock, and all that stuff, because it's all American music and American metal also. That's what the Chop House Band plays. We play all that stuff. There are some spots. I am actually on this particular run, I'm leaning into the heavy. So there are a couple things that are acoustic and nice and that stuff, but I'm the only one that plays acoustic. Everybody else, both guitar players still are, Tellys and Les Pauls and things the whole time. And so it just has that thing where I can sing a little bit, but it does go to the places that people want it to go to.
And the band is named after your studio. And where is Chop House physically? And is it a public studio? Meaning, is it only for you, or do you rent it out and do other people use it?
The original Chop House was built, founded in 1992 in Walnut Creek, California. And then we sold that about 5 years ago. And we've shifted. Now there's two Chop Houses. There's one in Florida and there's one in New York. And they are my studios. I only record and work with projects that I'm involved with. There's only ever been one band that I did not play in that I recorded, and that was a band called Disco Jefes. Jefes are the kids that became Echo Brain. And so I kind of liked their original band so much that I recorded them, but then I pulled the two main guys out and made Echo Brain with them. So every other project's ever been done has been my own projects in my studio. It's not a public place.
Okay, so I know like Dave Grohl has 606 in California. He rents that out to people. It's
Right.
not that sort of thing. It's more, this is more for you privately.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it has
Gotcha.
everything. You know, jam rooms. The building I'm in now in Florida is my art studio and the music studio and the collection studio. All this. It has a ceramics thing back there and woodworking over there, and it's a creative place. You know.
And you know something really important, and I'm so glad you're okay. But in the press you've done up to this point for this run of dates, it's you've talked about the fact that you had a battle with cancer, throat cancer. What can you tell my audience about that and how you're doing now? Most importantly.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to about and tie into 5 or 6 questions ago about Jay. You popped up again and what you're doing and why are you doing it? I started out by answering that the BlackBerry guys made the offer to me, and that was one of the reasons as the planets align. But the main nucleus is that May of 2025 is about 370 days ago or something. I had a procedure for throat cancer, and they took tonsil, lymph nodes, and all this kind of thing out of here, and it was a very harrowing type of thing. I didn't really tell anyone other than my family and closest circle. I didn't want anybody to know. I wouldn't keep it private until I knew what was going to happen. I got my free and clear a few weeks ago, and so that's when I started talking about it and telling my friends about it. But I had talked to Charlie about doing these shows back in November. I was only 6 months out of my surgery back then. I was only a few months out of radiation at that point. And so I was betting on myself that I was going to heal and I was going to get better and I was going to be strong enough to do these shows. I kind of put it out there as an incentive thing, but also to prove to myself I could and to feel as alive as possible, Ed, because I'd never been that close to death before. And it was very eye-opening, you know, at the same time, and it makes you appreciate everything that you've had and the opportunities you've had, and maybe you want to take some more opportunities while you're able. And so that's kind of where it's at. For me to feel as alive as possible is when I go out and sing and play and interact with the people. You know, that's the one thing that I miss the very most. It's not the money. It's not any of that shit. It's not the trappings. It's meeting the people. It's keeping that camaraderie with my people, man. I always took such pride in it. I still do. But I look forward to seeing some folks that have been my friends, acquaintances, and so forth for how many ever decades, man, you know? So it really comes down to wanting to feel as alive as I can. And that's the main reason. I'm hoping some other opportunities may come from it. We'll see.
You know, Jason, I talk to my audience all the time, very openly about health stuff and screenings because my audience tends to be in our age group. You know, we're both in our early 60s and stuff is popping up, whether it's prostate stuff, colonoscopy stuff. I have no problem talking about it personally when I go through these screenings. I work with the DO Cancer Fund. I help try to raise funds for screening for people that can't have screening, can't afford it. So with whatever you're comfortable speaking about with this, that could maybe help somebody listening, what can you share as far as your symptoms and what they told you? Like, how did you know? Was it just a sore throat? We hear a lot. Bruce Dickinson had this HPV, which seems to be making the rounds. You hear people like that. The drummer in Poison, Ricky, had that. I've had them on talking about it. What can you talk about with your situation that could maybe be a good precautionary thing for people listening as far as screening or knowing symptoms?
Yes, I would really like to be an advocate for this as a survivor, and without dwelling on it too much, but just awareness is the key. So those of us you just mentioned, and there's a few others, and it all is from the same thing. It is from HPV, and we are fortunate in that because it can be defined immediately from just a blood test. And so many other cancers, the other few hundred that we deal with daily, is more invasive, and biopsies and these type of things that can be, not very much fun and very scary as you're leading up to finding out what it actually is. With the HPV thing, it usually can be identified fairly simply. And so that was to the advantage. Found mine early, and we're able to get in with a very talented doctor. There's only a couple guys that do this particular surgery in the country, and one guy happened to be at the University of Miami here, and I went and we took care of that. So it started out, then my wife Nicole had noticed a little bit on this side, and something, and I had an earache and a jaw ache, and I went to see a doctor about it, and they just gave me some motion sickness pills or something. And then got down to Florida to our main doctor, and then did some tests on my annual physical. And he said, gave me a call, said you need to come in, and then said the word. And it was, we've all been 1 degree, 2, how many degrees of separation from this fucking thing. And we're all affected by it. There's nobody that breathes that hasn't been affected by it one way or another. So when it's actually the words that are saying pointed at you, it is, your gut drops out, man. You get freaked out and you start asking all the things, and why is it happening to me? And you don't believe it, and you want to, let's have some more tests. How can you be so sure? And defiance and all the things that people go through, the common things. So all those things happened. Man, like I say, now it has been a year, and I really stuck to my guns. I got rest. I stopped drinking and smoking. I really watching my diet. I had to be on a liquid diet for the first 7 months. So I lost a lot of weight, and now I'm back to myself again. But what I would say to people is just make sure you get tested. HPV, 100% of people have been exposed to it. Usually your immune system can handle it, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it can lie dormant for decades and then just show up. So just be really careful and make sure to get tested. That's what I say, because we all need to help each other on this as our brothers start being weakened from it. Fortunately, the people you spoke about it, Bruce and Mike Ness and Mustaine and, a handful of folks.
Oh, yeah, Dave had it, yeah.
Right. So we all kind of riding in that same boat. And I think it's important for just us to be transparent about it. We don't got to bring anybody down. We don't got to actually want to be the opposite of negative about it. We want to be aware and positive that we can beat it, and hopeful because we have awareness, and hopeful because we have data, and hopeful because we have science. It's a good thing. So we got to make sure to keep an eye on it. And especially guys anywhere, like 40 and above, you should make sure you get self-tested and make sure your kids are protected.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I bring it up, because it's so important when people are willing to be advocates and speak about this who have gone through it. The good news is the people that you've talked about, especially somebody like Bruce Dickinson, right. My gosh, if you see Maiden, he's remarkable still. I mean, he's the lead singer running around a 2-hour football stadium-sized stage. You would never know. So The way he's bounced back from it vocally, you're okay?
Yeah, actually, it's still down there a little bit. It takes a little bit to get it up. It'll be a minute. But my singing, which I'm doing a lot more of now, it's different and it's better. There's a different kind of resonance and so forth. So I'm trying to make the best of it, really, truly. So I was scared for a minute I wasn't going to be able to, but I had to take that chance. I wanted to do the most very drastic measures to make sure. And so you can only be so sure. But I did everything to be as sure as possible, and so far it's worked. And a few of the things that they told me not to do, I think the same reason why Bruce is where he's at. They said, stop your swimming, Jay, and stop riding your bike in the sunshine and all that. And I'm like, that's not a thing. I didn't stop swimming. I didn't stop riding my bike. I didn't stop playing my music. I didn't stop. Even when I could just barely sing, I was still working on songs. So my livelihood, my blood flow, I didn't let it get me down too much because it was a very depressing event.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're okay, man. And I hope this leads to, you getting out there and playing and doing your thing even more, and that you're starting up with these shows. Again, Jason is going to be going out with the Chop House Band. The first date is July 1st in Massachusetts. The website, I believe, is chophouseband.com, I think, right? If people want to see everything going on.
Yeah, thank you. We got, there's Jason Newstead TCB on the Meta, and then our main thing is chophouseband.com for tickets and everything. Yes, thank you.
And I got to ask you a few other things. I'm looking behind you for people that will watch this on YouTube when I post the video. There is an amazing painting, and you do some amazing painting. You sent me a book a while ago of your paintings and signed it, which I still have. But that's an amazing piece right behind you. Are you still actively doing a lot of painting? Are you doing galleries and stuff like that?
Yeah, I still sell pictures every year and stuff. I haven't executed any for a little while. I still do a lot of drawing and still a lot of keep my hand-eye going. I have many, many canvases that are complete that I've held on to and not ready to sell yet. You know, imagine there's a couple hundred and some really giant things. And I might come back into that again. It was quite a little run. I went from probably about 12 or 13 years, started in 2010 with my first exhibit in San Francisco, and then kind of started going around and, you know, I was painting like nobody's watching type of thing. And then this one cat that was really connected having to come over with one of his friends to see some music. And he said, "Who painted that?" And I said, "Me." And he goes, "You're going to that art show, that art show, that show." I go, what are you talking about? I don't know what Art Basel is. What is that? And so he starts lining me up, and I got, you know, gallery internationally, all the things. 12 or 13 years worth. Went around, did some exhibits, played a lot of music within the paintings, those kind of like gallery museum shows. But very cool vibe. Actually, that's my favorite thing. Is where I'm surrounded by my canvases and just kind of do a little acoustic thing. Pretty cool. And I still am open to doing all those things. Mostly now, if I'm going to work in art, it's going to be philanthropic, and it's going to be to help, you know, kids pick up on things or whatever I can impart on them. You know, however I can help with that type of stuff is where I'm at with that. I'm not too concerned about selling big canvases anymore, and most of them are sold unsolicited these days anyway. People come to me and want to go for a studio visit, and then they pick something out, and that's it. You know, it's not really like I'm competing or stuff right now.
Right. And I wanted to ask you, you know, Metallica, as they've gone through their catalog, they've been doing these deluxe reissues of these albums. And they've been in your period of time for a while now, starting with And Justice, and I think they're on Reload right now. Have you been involved in those? Have you gotten, had anything to do with those? Have you seen them? Or do you like what they've been doing with the catalog?
So I did the unboxing on the Black album back when that happened. And that was a pretty big hit. And I can't remember how many million views, but it went pretty well. And then I just did the Reload unboxing about 10 days ago or something right here in this room. And that was great, you know, because always we stay in touch. We're partners for life. And so I always know what's coming. You know, we have this kind of thing and it goes by, and I pay attention to happenings, but I don't look at any of the contents or any of that stuff for what they're going to put in the box unless they ask me to approve something. That I will step in on that. I wait, especially if I know I'm going to do the unboxing. I don't want to see it until I see it for the first time, so my reaction is genuine. And that's really the thing. And I've been out for long enough that I can be objective about what I see, and very much the super fandom situation when I see this stuff, because my POV is rather unique in the world, but in our metal world, but also in that camp itself, you know, it really kind of is. And so being able to see it from that side now and enjoying that, looking at it, go, well, we did that, and that was silly. That was awesome. You know, that's really fucking fun, man. And so I did that, a few days ago, and always enjoy being included, always participate. Each year we do a few things, you know, whether I'm signing Ross's photo book or we're signing what are those little Japanese dolls, pachinko, whatever they're called, those little guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
Any of that stuff that comes through, said, "Jay, will you sign this box of this and this box of that?" And I send it on, you know. So it's still participating and still happy about it.
You know, I got to ask you, when Injustice came out, which of course was your first record, there were people in my audience, and even myself, I brought it up like, wow, I wonder if they'll actually put an alternate mix in here with more bass. Did you, were you hoping for that, or did you ever entertain that, or did they ever talk about that?
Nah, man. No. No, it's not, it's what it is. I don't think that you should go back and mess with things like that. I don't agree with it. If somebody wanted to, I know other fans and stuff have done, approaches or, examples of what it would be if there was bass, louder on the record, but it's not, I just don't spend time like that. It's been 35 years or something. That's more than half of my life. I don't really pay too much attention to it. I'm not sure we talked about that before. What I feel like we did. What I've come to with all this, because people still like to bring it up, and I'm pretty happy that they do, because if it hadn't been so fucking bizarre, then we probably wouldn't be talking about it 35 years later with any kind of interest. If it was just a record that was a record and there's an album and it goes like this, then we probably wouldn't be saying anything else about it until the unboxing came. But since people still bring it up, you go all the way back. So that on the cassette of No Life Till Leather, the original demo of Metallica, and it's on like Compact Cassette brand or whatever, and it's handwriting in a blue ballpoint pen and Lars' handwriting, right? And it says Metallica No Life Till Leather demo, and then in parentheses, turn bass down on stereo. In his handwriting. Okay, that was the demo. The very first time anyone was going to hear their band. He was already in that mode. All right, so it's 1982. That's where the playing field is. That's where we start. So as you go through things, and the way that any of the records were created, especially the trilogy of Godliness, right, the first three, set the blueprints for our style of music, period. There are other bands that have come along and done quite well, but not like that, and not being that innovative or that important. There are many bands that exist, but there's only a few important ones. And that's an important one, and those are important albums. All of them, all the way through when we were rolling in fucking money, was in a 12 by 12 cave with a drum set and Marshall stacks that just about touched the roof, right? And two people with a Tascam cassette recorder, 8-track. And they go in and they make the albums that change the world. Two people. And it goes jing, 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 like that. And Lars plays with the guitar out of the monitor, not the bass. It's always been that. Before there was Black Keys, before there was White Stripes, before there was Flat Duo Jets or whoever those guys are, before there was those kind of bands with no bassist, there was James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich as the original garage duo. The other ones that came in, Cliff, Kurt, myself, are the embellishment of the garage duo. If the garage duo chooses to put bass in their duo, then they do. If they don't, they don't. And Justice for All is the largest selling garage duo album of all time.
Yeah, it's all great points. And also And Justice was a huge, some people I've heard to refer to And Justice as the Metallica prog album, the progressive album. There's a lot of long songs and all of that. I always wondered about your thoughts when you jumped in at that point, because it was a big leap from Puppets to that in terms of what was going on musically. But what were your impressions when you came into that, and that's the direction they were going in musically? People love the album. Obviously, it's a landmark album, but it's an interesting album in the sense that it is a very uncommercial record that's actually a hugely successful record.
Yeah, fortunately had one song on there that did pretty darn good. Well, it was far more reminiscent of Flotsam music than it was of Metallica music. So it was kind of just in stride for me as far as the style. The Flotsam was very much the busy, up-tempo craziness like that, very progressive. So I think they kind of just fit right in it for me.
And one last thing on Metallica, what is it like for you when you think about the Black Album? You know, you talked about me being there from the beginning, and I was one of the first people to play the band. I got a story about Johnny Z bringing me the demo and all that stuff, and I've told that before. But, you know, I've often talked to Lars about this too, because we just kind of laugh sometimes when we talk. Because and of course you knew Metallica being in Flotsam, and you knew when Kill 'Em All came out and all of that. But when you think about those days, and I started in radio in '83, the idea of Metallica being played on the radio and being a commercially successful band to people who were in it from day one is insane. Even Lars has said to me, how did this happen? So when you flash forward and you realize there's this record called the Black Album that is one of the biggest selling records of all time, which you, of course, are a part of, it's mind-blowing when you think about it. It's got to be even for you where you sit now to look back and be like, wait a minute, how did that happen?
Yeah, we worked hard, and it wasn't for lack of effort, that's for sure. But, you know, the other day when it was, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago, I was going to take some pictures, and I needed a Black Album, and I didn't have one. And so I talked to my buddy that runs a shop up in New York, and he sent me down a Black Album, and it still had the sticker and the plastic on it. And I hadn't addressed, I don't think ever would have had a shrink wrapped one like that with the retail sticker on it and everything. I would have had a shrink wrap one to hand to somebody as a gift, but not with the thing in the store. And so on the silver sticker, it says largest SoundScan album of all time. Boop. Boop. Not of heavy metal, of all time, all styles. So this kind of thing is still, even after all the water is under the bridge, you got to sit down for a minute and kind of go, what? So, and it still sells every day. It still means something to somebody. There are kids right now learning Enter Sandman on their guitar. There's still Nothing Else Matters playing on the radio in 30 countries right now. You know, and 10 minutes from now in another country. It's hard to explain. Phenomenons are what they are, and it is one, and it continues to be one. I don't think any of us certainly could have predicted it. We all knew, those of us that knew better, that this band was the head and shoulders above everyone. They were going to be the ones that spearheaded everything. They were going to be the ones that were the leaders of it. That was apparent way, way back when. And so we knew it would be good, but there's no way we could have known what it would have grown into now, and still continues to just actually dominate in places. It's amazing.
Yeah, you said Nothing Else Matters is probably playing every 10 minutes. I would go every 10 seconds somewhere in the world.
It's enough people now. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. Would you? What do you think about this run at the Sphere? I know, you know. Is that something that interests you as an outsider? Would you consider going just to see? Have you been to the Sphere? Have you seen anybody play there? I've seen 2 shows there so far. Does that interest you, that venue, and them doing it?
I haven't seen anything there yet. It fascinates me. I think that it's going to be great for them. That would be a really killer thing, because they obviously have some production people that are pretty on point. You see what's gone on the last how many of years they've carried that flipping thing around the country, the black and yellow, around the world, that black and yellow thing. Amazing, just amazing. So you can only imagine what their people are going to come up with for that scenario, for that setting. I am definitely open to seeing any band there. I'd love to see the Eagles there. I'd love to see Metallica there, whomever. Yeah, I think it's an incredible opportunity. I'm very happy for them.
Yeah, you know, I live in Vegas predominantly now, and I'm there. I've seen U2 there. I saw the Eagles there. I saw the Wizard of Oz show in there. There's yet to be a heavy rock band in there, but I can't wait to see what Metallica does. And it's funny, I was in my local Costco in Vegas the other day, and I'm pushing my cart, and a guy comes up to me. He says, "You Eddie Trunk?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm Rob. I'm Metallica's lighting guy." And I said, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you." And I go, "Wait a minute, you live in Vegas?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Wow, it's great. You're right up the street from where you're going to be working for a while." He said, "Yeah, I love it." And I said, you know, from a lighting perspective, I don't know what you're going to do in there because the building is the lighting. And he goes, He looks at me, he goes, oh, we're going to blow some shit up. And I said, well, in typical Metallica fashion, that's what I would expect.
Right. Yeah. So what platform from a different planet they're going to be able to work with, especially because you got yourself planted for a minute. You don't got to pick up the gig at the end of the gig and take it to the next town. You got to think to be able to establish some shit. Learn from that first show, learn from that show, learn from that. By the time the sixth one comes, I think it's just going to be, they're all going to be great, but you know what I'm saying. They're going to learn from me, especially production guys, figure out exactly how it's going to work, and that's going to work, and they'll adapt to it. It's going to be amazing, I'm sure. Yeah, killer, man. Killer for them. Then the tickets sold in the blink of an eye, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to see. It really is.
Hey, last thing, man, and I'll let you go on this. I appreciate all the time. Have you, of course, there was a lot of news made a few years ago about that Van Halen thing that was going around with you and Satriani. Has that come back around? Has there been any talk about ever doing something like that? There's never been a proper VH send-off. A lot of people would love that. There was talk about it at the time. Satch has talked about it. You talked about it. Has it come back around? Have you heard anything about them wanting to do anything again?
What? Wow, I can't remember when that was exactly. I remember having a phone call with Alex and then just telling Joe that I didn't think it was appropriate, and that was the last I ever heard of it. There was never anybody reaching out to me about anything. And I think I'm in the same camp as most people and the same as you, that if it can be done properly and concisely, like it needs to be just a quick thing. It needs to be a special thing, or 2 nights at some place, and it's just that. And if they do it honorably, but it's getting kind of a little bit late to do it correctly. I think now it'd be pretty hard. I don't think there's enough, maybe not enough cohesion anymore to really make it proper. It's got to be an honor show. It has to be that. It has to be worshiping, whatever you call that, what happened. You have to be able, it's not just going to be some kind of rock show. It has to be a hybrid dedication kind of event. And I'm not sure if those logistics can be worked out anymore.
Yeah, well, the good news is Alex is doing stuff. I mean, he's put out a book. He's got another book coming. He's getting out there a little bit. So maybe that'll kind of grease the wheel. But I agree with you. I always envisioned it as a couple nights at the Forum, maybe something similar to what Dave did for Taylor when he passed away, a big landmark event. That's always what I thought it being. Different guests coming up, different guitar players. I don't think it's too late just because of the enormity of what Eddie did. But I do agree with you that time is ticking, and we'd all love to see something happen. I just didn't know if there was any further dialogue.
No further dialogue. And it would have to be, how are you going to do that and still pay homage to Alex also, and still pay homage? Because you still to do the homage as the band. If you're going to do an Eddie tribute, then have Nuno and Tom Morello lined up a bunch of band motherfuckers, and you do that thing, and everybody takes their shot at one of Eddie's songs, something like that. That needs to be its own category and its own thing anymore. If you're going to have a Van Halen honor, then it needs to be for the band. That's how I see it anymore. The time has gone by. If somebody would be able to coordinate something that was timely, appropriate, like an anniversary of a passing, an anniversary of the beginning of the band, an anniversary of the biggest album of the band, something that made sense to the fans, and they did it as an honor to the music that was made, not just certain guys that played it. That's the way it has to be done, in my opinion, now.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I appreciate all the time. I maybe I'll break some news here that's just coming in. Unfortunately, we talked about our love of 70s hard rock acts. And
no.
Like you, I grew up with Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and all this. Legendary producer Jack Douglas has passed away. Word just coming out at 80 years old. I had Jack on this show a couple of years ago, but my gosh, who doesn't have a record produced by Jack Douglas? That's some awful news just coming in now.
What's so cool about that kind of thing, not that, it's God rest his soul. What I mean about this, what you just said, that the album, he made a bunch of albums with a bunch of people. Those of us that find a way to be still after we're gone, you could still hear our music, you can still hear us sing, even though we're not breathing. So Jack has that in spades, right? And he has all these things that he left behind, so you can still listen to him and still feel his presence. I think this thing is super fucking important. And so that's how we need to look at that too. And it really ties into your last question too. It's the same thing of just making sure that we always pay respect to the people that meant something to us in our lives like that. When there was monumental albums and pivotal albums that people took part in, they should be shown respect for it. So that's great. So I want to say thank you very much. And, I'm just testing the water with this Chop House Band thing. I haven't been out in a while. Many things have changed. Less things have stayed the same as I remember them. So I'm trying to adjust to some of that. We'll see what it's like. We'll see how the folks are. We'll see how the reaction is. We see how my fan relation and all that goes on. And then if there's other opportunities that come up, then so be it. But I know that I'm committed to these ones in July with Blackberry and our headlining shows, and I'm going to go out and have some fun and feel alive, man. And so anybody wants to come out and feel alive with me, that would be great. So just make sure to say hello if you come out.
Yeah, July 1st, it starts in Massachusetts. You can see all the dates at chophouseband.com. And tell you what, brother, I'm happy you're back out there doing music, and I am most happy that you are healthy, and stay healthy, man, and all the best to you. And thank you for the time, man. Hit me up if you need anything, and we'll be in touch, man. Thank you.
Always good talking to you, buddy. Cheers.
You too, bro. There he goes, Jason Newsted, everybody. The Chop House Band, make sure you go check him out again. Starting July 1st, chophouseband.com is where you want to go to find your dates, to find your tickets, find all your information. As he mentioned, some of the shows are headlining dates. Some of the shows he is out with Blackberry Smoke, which reminds me, I got to hit up Charlie. We're due to have Charlie on. It'll be good to have him join us for a bit and talk a little bit about what they're doing, because they're on a big run here celebrating 25 years, and they're just a great band, great people as well, and it's always fun to talk to him. It's been a little while. I may even hit him up during the commercial break and send him a text, see if he wants to jump on tomorrow for a bit, because I think we have an open show tomorrow. But huge thanks to Jason Newsted for joining us. That was a lot of fun, and we captured that on Zoom, so somewhere down the line we'll put out the video on that. And, man, we covered a lot of ground. We just did 50 minutes with Jason, just shy of an hour, covering everything from what he's doing now, the health stuff, obviously some great Metallica stuff in there, and some great perspective on that, and much, much more. So if you missed anything, by all means, go rewind or go grab it on demand on the SiriusXM app. Good in-depth stuff with Jason Newsted. Love doing interviews like that where we can spend some time, stretch out, touch on everything, and get you guys some real good insights and content. So great stuff. Appreciate Jason joining us. Okay, so as I mentioned, very, very sad news coming out during that interview that now looks to be confirmed. I had heard about it just before the interview. I wanted to make sure it was confirmed because, again, you know how the internet can be, but it looks like it has been confirmed that legendary producer Jack Douglas has passed away at the age of 80 years old. We were just talking about Aerosmith Rocks, an incredibly landmark, important album, turning 50. I just talked the last couple of days about how that album is being celebrated by Aerosmith at 50 years old with social media posts and what have you. Jack Douglas produced that album. Jack Douglas produced all the classic Aerosmith, all the classic Cheap Trick, worked with John Lennon. We had him on this show a couple years ago in a producer spotlight. He is an absolute legend when it comes to music production. So we're going to dig a little bit more on that and talk a little bit more about him after this break and whatever else you guys want to hit me with. Our phone lines are open. We'll finish up with the last half hour or so with you guys on the phones. 844-686-5863. Just wrapped up with Jason New.
That rocks. With Eddie Trunk.
No bullshit, no politics, no agenda. It means the world to us.
Sirius XM's Faction Talk.
So we just wrapped up with Jason Newsted. Incredible conversation. So much good stuff in there. I can feel that there's going to definitely be some people latching on to some cool things in there. Jason is always open and honest and always willing to talk about anything, which is great. Not one of these guys that gives you conditions on interviews. I respect that so much. Always gives his honest take. So great to have him, and glad that he's healthy, and interesting stuff in there about Injustice and the Black Album and Metallica in general and what he's doing now and his painting and his health, and growing up a big Kiss fan. That was a funny story that he started playing guitar and then got dressed to kill and wanted to be Gene Simmons, so he ripped 2 strings off. Said, now I'm playing bass. And that's how he got into playing bass. It's funny as hell. We'll get that video out for you in the next week or two, but enjoy it on the SiriusXM app, exclusive to you guys who subscribe for the next bit before we roll it out to the wider audience. All right, so turning our attention on this Tuesday to the sad news that came in and unfortunately was confirmed during that interview. Again, I had gotten some people telling me that they had heard this just before I went to the Jason interview, but I never want to be first. I always want to be right, because that's most important, especially in this world of so much misinformation and erroneous things posted online. But unfortunately, this is proving to be accurate and true, and that is legendary, and I do mean legendary, record producer Jack Douglas has indeed passed away at the age of 80 years old. Jack Douglas was on this show a few years ago. We had him on a producer spotlight. I do remember we spent a good hour and a half with him. Joel, would that interview still be on the app?
It should be, yeah. I'll double check that right now, but yes, it should be there.
I remember it because Jack's dog was barking. Joel, were you with me when I had Jack on? I think you were.
Yeah, that was like my first year on the show or something like that. And I remember putting that show together and trying to cut around it a little bit. But yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, I remember, for a long time I was doing these producer spotlights, which I'll still do from time to time if I find somebody that I think's got enough of a story. And I wanted to get Jack Douglas in a big way because he produced some of my favorite albums of all time. And I knew Jack a little bit. I'd see him around. I'd say hello to him. I used to see him at Aerosmith shows in New York, especially. And I was working on getting him on for a while, and he finally agreed to do it. And I remember when we did it, his dog kept barking. We recorded it and then aired it, and his dog kept interrupting and barking. He had to keep stopping the interview to go deal with the dog. And if I remember, he also had to get up a few times, as older people do, and many can relate to, and go to the bathroom. So we had to keep stopping and whatever. But I remember Joel pieced it together as best he could, but we got into some great stuff. It'd be maybe great to revisit that if Joel can find it on a best of at some point.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely have it. It's in my archives for sure. It'll definitely be queued up to replay soon, and it is on the SiriusXM app. If you search for Jack Douglas, just Jack Douglas, it's the first result. It's from July of 2021.
Joel, I can do it too. I'll post the link for people that want to hear it, because it would be good to put that out there today in memory of him, because I do remember it being entertaining, but obviously had its little glitches, but entertaining and insightful, being the work that this man did. And for those that do not know, because the reality is most people do not know who produces records or writes songs or don't really follow the behind the scenes people. But this guy had an unbelievable resume. And that resume included Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic, yes, Walk This Way, Sweet Emotion, Rocks, one of the greatest rock albums of all time, Get Your Wings, the second Aerosmith album, Draw the Line. Obviously, the wheels were coming off with drugs for Aerosmith, but there's still people that like elements of that record. I certainly do. And the other thing that, and I'm looking in the press release here about his death, the other thing that is not one thing that's not mentioned here is that Jack Douglas actually produced what stands to be the last ever Aerosmith album, which is over 10 years old at this point, called Music from Another Dimension. And when that album came out and they were making that record, they wanted to try to get back to the essence of Aerosmith and their 70s glory. So they hired Jack to do that record, because a lot of the records in the 80s, Aerosmith's second phase, if you will, Jack Douglas did not produce. And there were those that, as successful as those records were, there were those that were like, man, it'd be great to get a gritty old school Aerosmith 70s record. So, the band heard people talking like that, and they brought Jack back to do what now stands as their last record, Music from Another Dimension. Now, many will say they don't feel that record accomplished that. I actually like some stuff on that record. It was a bit long. Everybody was always like, well, it should have been like 4 ballads less. But there are some really good songs on that record. That song, Legendary Child, on that record, I always liked. So that's fitting that Jack Douglas did all the classic 70s Aerosmith records, but also did their final record, assuming they never make a record again. And I don't count this EP they did with Youngblood, because that's not really Aerosmith. So Jack's history with Aerosmith is enormous. And when Aerosmith, again, would play in the New York area, Jack would be at the shows. I would often talk to him there. The other band in terms of hard rock that Jack Douglas had a huge history with is Cheap Trick, having done their debut album and the Budokan record. In addition, Jack Douglas worked in an engineering capacity on John Lennon's Imagine record and Double Fantasy, which he produced and engineered. So right out of the gate, the guy produced Aerosmith, John Lennon, Cheap Trick. And when I talk about producing, I'm talking about these are not just throwaway records. These are landmark records. Worked his way up from the record plant studios, from janitor to producer. Other acts include Patti Smith, Blue Oyster Cult, New York Dolls, David Bowie, Stevie Wonder, Alice Cooper, Bob Dylan, George Harrison, and many, many others. Jack Douglas produced a Slash's Snake Pit record among some of the others. Why? Exactly because Slash was such a huge fan of Aerosmith. I've talked to Slash about it. Received a Grammy for the Lennon Yoko Ono album Double Fantasy. I'm just going through some of the other things that Jack Douglas produced that you would certainly know about. So when it comes to Aerosmith, he did all their live stuff. He did live Bootleg. I remember when we had him on, I talked to him about Bootleg, because so many 70s classic live albums were not live. Live Bootleg truly is. I remember asking Jack about that, and he said, no, we didn't touch a thing. We just recorded a bunch of different shows and picked the best performances, mixed it, and put it out. That's why I think Live Bootleg is a tremendously underrated 70s live album. What else? Joe Perry Project. I love Let the Music Do the Talking from the Joe Perry Project. He did that. He also did a more recent Joe Perry album, Switzerland Manifesto. Did the Alice Cooper album, Muscle of Love. did the debut Zebra album, which was a very big record for Atlantic Records and that band, Who's Behind the Door and all that stuff. Let me see what else I can pick out of the discography. For Slash, he did Ain't Life Grand, which was the second Snake Pit record. Worked with Rick Derringer. Did records for Clutch, so he did more modern heavy rock as well. Modern when you compare it to the 70s stuff we're talking about. I'm looking at some other stuff, just picking it out here for you. First Stars album, which is a great record. Yeah, just an incredible resume here, folks. Engineering credits include Alice Cooper, Billion Dollar Babies, David Bowie, David Live, the debut New York Dolls album, the Blue Oyster Cult album, On Your Feet or On Your Knees, The Who, Who's Next. Crazy. Engineered that record. Rest in peace, Jack Douglas. Huge loss, and this guy worked right up until his death. I mean, he was active. He's died at 80 years old. He was active right until the end. I mean, he was working right till the end. Here's a note from Facebook on Jack Douglas, posted by his family. Jack passed away peacefully on Monday night. As many of you who follow him know, he produced great music and lived a colorful life. We know that he touched many of your lives. We love to hear more about that in the comments. He will be missed. So again, if you'd like to hear from Jack Douglas and hear an interview, what year was that done, Joel? What year did we do that?
2021.
My gosh, 5 years ago already. But we did have him on in a producer spotlight. And as Joel just said, if you go to the SiriusXM app and you punch in the search Jack Douglas, that interview will come up. And if Joel sends me a link, I'll post it on social media here in a bit. But very, as they say in the post, A Colorful Life, he was quite a character as well. And again, I did not know him well, but knew him enough to say hello and would see him at some shows, and grateful that I had that time to do that interview with him when we had him on 5 years ago. So rest in peace, Jack Douglas. So much is talked about celebrating these artists, folks, and we love these artists and we do celebrate them and deserve to celebrate the people out front on these records and these bands that we love. But there are very, very important people behind the scenes that play an enormous role in the success of these bands that are not household names. They are not people that you see in the media and public figures, but the artists themselves will tell you sometimes these records, these songs don't come out the way they came out, would not be as big if it wasn't for some of these people behind the scenes. And Jack Douglas absolutely holds that status for bands like Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and John Lennon and many, many others, as I just revealed and ran down. All right, there's that. Bummer news here today on Trunk Nation coming in at the end of the show. And again, we just spoke to Jason Newsted. We'll grab a few calls to wrap up here. 844-686-5863 if you want to jump on the air with something before we wrap it in about 10 minutes. Also, just again, a quick schedule update. If you joined us late, and if you did join us late, you can always go back, listen from the beginning on the app. I highly recommend it. because we bring you news and all that good stuff to start every show. We do have some guests tomorrow. Thursday, Neil Schon joining us. Of course, the founding member of Journey. Journey just announced 40 more concerts on their farewell tour today. Neil Schon joins us live on Thursday to talk about it. Also next week on the 19th, drummer from the Police, Stuart Copeland. This is 2 weeks in a row we have had iconic drummers on the show for the first time ever. Last week it was Phil Collins. Next week it is Stuart Copeland. Also next week on Thursday, tentatively scheduled Alice Cooper in studio from Vegas. And also just announced earlier today on June 4th in studio, also from Vegas, Bryan Adams, who has been on the show before, but this time Bryan in studio with us, which means we'll take your calls for him and have some time to spread out. Very, very much looking forward to that. Was able to lock that in just before I got on the air. As usual, anything can change, shift. So we always ask you to follow on social media at Eddie Trunk, X, Instagram, Facebook page. And the show account is at Trunk Nation SXM. You'll find that on X, Instagram, and on TikTok. Let's grab a couple calls here to wrap up. Again, 844-686-5863. I will post the Jack Douglas interview link for you guys right when I wrap up here in a few minutes. Joel just sent it to me. But again, you don't have to wait for the link. If you use the SiriusXM app, you punch in Jack Douglas in the search. Joel says that'll be the first interview that comes right up for you if you'd like to listen, remember, and revisit and celebrate Jack. Here is Chris in Louisiana joining us now on the phone. Hey, Chris, what's going on?
Hey, Trunk. How you doing, Mr. Eddie?
Hey, man.
Yep. Hey, listen, I wanted to grab you real quick. I heard last week, and I got one more quick thing after this about your buddy Todd Kearns. I heard last week, remember a guy called in, and you were at the Keeper show the last time he was there in Houston. I called you after that show with the opening band, Love and War. The singer had like a heat stroke, and he had to step off of the stage, and the rest of the guys totaled the rest of the way for the show. You remember that guy? Uh-huh.
I do remember the story, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I called you like a week or so after that actually happened a couple of years ago. And the reason being was the two guitar players had, I don't know if they had fell on their chords or something, but they each took a spill. And it was kind of funny. They got up, they laughed about it and everything. And hey, kept on jamming, never missed a lick. But the funny thing is those two guitar players that fell are the guitar players in Lights Out.
Well, what the guitar player in Lights Out, the main guitar player who plays all the leads is John Adams. It's his band, basically. Correct. So is that who you're talking about? Right.
Yes. John was the first one to fall. He's in Love and War, and also the other guy, Greg Gill, are in Love and War. So okay. I know you got it. Yeah. So that's the two guys that did the dust during the show. And I know you're doing a hosting show with them coming up next month. If you would put yourself a note, I'd love to hear what actually happened. I'm sure they'll laugh about it. And I'd love to hear what happened with all that. It's crazy.
Well, Chris, it's not unusual at all for people to stumble on stage. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, people trip on monitors, pedal boards, artists that do play with chords. I've seen it a lot. I just forget where it was. I just saw an interview that Rachel Bolan did, and he's going to be on the show soon because as we get a little closer to the release of his solo album. But Rachel did an interview, and he told the story about when he fell on stage at Rocklahoma, which, of course, I host. I was standing right there watching it. And he walked out, and then he walked back, and he fell right back on his butt and kept playing and got knocked out there for a second. But yeah, it's quite common, unfortunately, as long as nobody gets seriously hurt. They hopefully can it was laugh it off.
It just happened to one guy, and then a little while later in the set, the other guy takes a fall. It's like, wow, he's probably laughing at him or something.
Yeah, I just saw it happen recently. Was there something else, Chris, or is that it?
Real quick on Todd Kearns, man. I was listening a while back, and some people had touched in on the band, the Red Devil Vortex, and it kind of shocked me. You didn't seem that really familiar with them, with the band, Red Devil. And the reason why I was kind of thrown by it, because on the Handsome Devils gig that Todd does, the guitar player and bass player, Luis and Gabriel, the bass player, are from Red Devil.
Yes, I'm aware of them, and I know who they are, and I've seen them. But the thing is, Chris, and thank you for the call, using that as an example, Todd Kearns, who is a dear friend, Todd plays with a ton of people. And it is not unique at this point for Todd to be playing with somebody. He plays with a ton of people. I just got pitched something the other day from a band that honestly I never heard of, and they were promoting the fact that Todd was playing with them. So it is not a unique thing. Todd is a musician. He's a working musician that if, he jumps into a lot of things, whether he's actually in the band or guesting with the band. A lot of guys do that. So, that I understand that that's a thing that a lot of bands do. They will find a fairly established musician and hire that musician to be in their band because they feel it'll help bring them some additional attention. I see it happen all the time. It's been happening for years. But, there's a difference between being fully engaged in some of these bands and actually just doing it as a for-hire type of gig, which, again, a lot of musicians do. So that's why I didn't put that together, because he plays with a lot of different people, as do so many musicians, and that's just how it works these days. And there are so many of these, I'm not saying this is one of those cases, but there's so many of those assembled bands that happen as well. You can't keep track of who's in what. Again, there are like a billion bands out there. And to people who know these bands and to the people in those bands, they are the most important band and everybody should know about them. But the reality is, unfortunately, there's only a tiny percentage that ever reach that level. And we are now in an era where there are more bands than ever looking for a platform and attention and on the internet looking for clicks and headlines and all of that. Some are good, some are average, some are great, some are, quite frankly, bad. But it all goes into this incredibly oversaturated stew that everybody is trying to find a way to stand out from. But I am aware of the band and have met the guys, nice guys, and I wish them all the best. Here's Aaron in Louisiana. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, do you have any views on Monster Magnet right now?
No, I don't know what's happened with Monster Magnet. I've not heard anything from Dave Windorf or anything that they're doing for a while.
Oh, yeah, well, I have all their albums, and I've seen them in concert. They're great. But I haven't, like I said, I was wondering, you're not coming up with any new material, right?
I mean, nothing I'm aware of that they're doing as far as musically. I know that Monster Magnet is, even though there's been obviously some great players in the band, that is another one of those bands where it's really focused on one guy. It's Dave Windorf. He writes all the songs. It's his band. And I know he had a little bit of a health thing a number of years ago, but I think he got on the other side of that and was doing okay. But I have not heard anything about them being active. Or the last I remember a few years ago, they did a tour, but I don't think they played in America. And I think it was for the anniversary or reissue of one of their older records.
Oh, great. Thank you again. Have a blessed day.
You too, Aaron. I'll see if I can find anything more, but man, that Power Trip album from Monster Magnet is a great, great record. The one with Space Lord and all that. So is Dopes to Infinity. Those are great albums. Yeah, but they've been kind of on the down low. All right, that's going to do it for a Tuesday edition of Trunk Nation. Thank you all for listening. Keep an eye on social media. I'll let you know what we're going to do tomorrow. And then we got Neil Sean on Thursday. Again, back live with you tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern. If you missed anything, please use the app. Had a great interview with Jason Newsted for almost an hour today. You don't want to miss that.